Hello, welcome to your Divine Cosmic Journey, the place for soulpreneurs, modern mystics, starseeds to gather together and receive the information that they need for divine alignment and creating and establishing their own framework in their lives. My name is Stephanie, and as shamanic high priestess, I help beautiful souls who have reincarnated into this lifetime to tap into their soul's gifts with mysticism and science as my background. I help weave the magic so that people can anchor that into their lifetime now and to live their soul's purpose in this modern day and age. It's 2024, and honestly, can't we get past the xenophobic, racist slurs and just false sense of entitlement with Indigenous people and people of different cultures and ethnicity? And so this topic really comes on strongly, especially because we're starseeds, intuitives and empaths. There's this like programming to adapt that honestly has not done us any favors in the sense of playing small and allowing these injustices to continue. And this message really helps us to tap in to as a reminder of the power that we carry. A world and environment where things are coming up and no longer being hidden, and we're no longer staying quiet around. We as light workers are being encouraged and empowered with the astrology and the energies around us to step forward into our light, where there are injustices in any field you can think of: relationships, career, workplace, out in the collective and other aspects of the world. And the major theme that I'm getting, even as I'm saying this, is the fact that for so long, so many have really had the sense of entitlement and anger and feeling like they can't, those who have felt angry, those who have felt oppressed, feeling as if they have not had a safe place to be heard, to feel heard, to even speak their truth. And for me in particular, a couple of things come up in the collective, um, the wars, but also when we look at it, like the fight with injustice with women and children and sex trafficking. And more specifically, something that maybe could resonate is like race. Now, I am someone who's honestly never identified, never really saw it. It's just not the way I see my world in reality. I choose to live my life from a spiritual perspective. I am human, so sometimes I will come and focus hyperfixated on the physical world and what's going on with me, for me. Something that has been coming up is the topic of race and ethnicity. And so, with my perspective, I just never seen a label as really important to fight over. Um, but there you can see around maybe in your own stratosphere, your own world, or in the collective where that is such a big theme for a lot of people to focus their energy on. And yet, and there again, there's always going to be a double-edged sword, double two faces of the same coin, where you land on one extreme, perfect advocate, but then you can start really being hyperfixated to the point that you don't really create a positive momentum or change. You're just spewing in anger or pointing the finger. Or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum, you see it, but you just allow the fear to consume you so you don't speak up, you don't share truth. And I can say a lot of things just personally for me in the past couple of weeks with this identity and like what I'm no longer here for and what I'm here to actually step out and put the line in terms of boundaries and respect because a Taurus is actually that sign of self-worth, worth, value, things pleasure, Venus. But if you can't even value yourself, how can you fully really value anything else in the world, right? That you are given the opportunity and blessing to hold and experience. So my major thing has been this topic of ethnicity and racism, entitlement. And I actually personally experienced this recently. Now I do identify as Indigenous women, background Latina, don't really resonate with that word because of, just the history of how a lot of colonialism, right, has happened and self of entitlement with a certain group of people. And I'm not saying everyone's that way, but I've just recently experienced it, but now I can put a finger to it. And I feel like this download is good and perfect because it wants to shake the pot. Pluto's in Aquarius retrograde, going in the sign of Capricorn. And there are things that Pluto collective energy we are experiencing, hence all the things I mentioned. And on the topic of like ethnicity, how you look like, it has been something that's always held back a lot of people, especially of color, indigenous background, women, and for far too long. A really great friend, a sister of mine, said as a Black woman, she had to be aware of not being too much, not too extra, not being too loud, not being too strong in her opinions, or else she'd be labeled as somebody who was just like that Black woman, right? And yeah, and she said, so as someone who's like grown up around a lot of the indigenous Spanish speaking community, we and some of us don't really even acknowledge the many times that perhaps you've had somebody write you off because of how you look. And also the programming that they've adapted and have embedded in their genes or mindset. So, and oftentimes you'll receive treatment where people don't even realize that they are acting a certain way. A really big example is with Stray Kids, a K-pop band group that attended the Met Gala, and and the reason why I'm bringing this up because it's 2024, and one part you can have a group say, well, I don't know why people are surprised that interviewers, photographers were spewing like racist lines to them, microaggressive, terms and just like microaggression towards them because they're Korean, assuming that they didn't speak English, but they do. and and just like bigotry. And some people were like, why are you surprised that they would receive this? Right? It's America. And in one part you could say that, but then also another part it's like, why you shouldn't be surprised is because a lot of us have kept our mouth shut for too long. And as a star seed, and in particular, depending on like what star child origin you resonate with, light worker, indigo children, we all have different missions and purposes. And a lot of us are here with this higher vibration and perspective to bring forward and to begin to take action and show a different way of being in light. And that oftentimes will include speaking up. With Taurus being closely related to the Palladian star system, in particular, something that comes forward is the expression of the highest chakra, starting from the heart, then the throat, third eye, and the crown. And the Pleiadian star system actually has seven sisters that are all related, each one to a particular chakra. So, in order for you to express yourself, you have to know who you are, ground yourself with the lower end of the chakras, solar, sacral, and root. And then from there, begin to step into that, endowment of higher quantum magic and wisdom that you carry to be that change. And here's the thing, it shouldn't be normalized where we allow things to just go. There has to be a point. And honestly, from a 3D perspective, I often remind myself, what like is this is how I'm gonna be someone who allows, say, someone in the workplace um to speak down on me, to, give me attitude, to not talk to me with respect, and this can be anybody, right? It can be a relationship. And am I going to allow this to happen as I spend more time on this planet? Say by the time I'm 40, 50, 60, 70, like you just allow this behavior and this character to continue. And a lot of times it can feel scary because you don't know if someone's going to lash out at you physically, someone's unhinged, or a group of people are. But you have to remember, as a light worker, when you really hold that vibration, when you really believe that you have a purpose, that God has his hand over you, that no sword shall fall upon you, that is when you really begin to step out even more in that protective light and energy. And you see things happen. Someone tries to attack you and it doesn't happen, right? It does not go according to their plan because of the fact of the vibration you hold. My own personal experience, where most recently, I think is also important to highlight this, because I'm also someone who, in from a spiritual perspective, the way I live my life, the way I see my life, especially as an intuitive empath, is just because, like I mentioned, I not identified and labeled my life based off of these conditions doesn't mean that I should also allow it to perpetuate around me and in the collective, because then I'm not really doing my part. And I had this conversation, with my soul sister, and we were both mentioning how in we do both our own respective businesses. Mine's a spiritual holistic healing business, coaching business. And yet at the same time, we're in spaces where we are collaborating with the conventional, conditional, masculine paradigm of work environments. And we both actually had around the same time, a couple weeks ago, experiences where we've dealt with supervisors or people who are normally, we've been trained to, think that someone who's on a higher level in terms of their title entitles them, to some sort of level of standard above us. It's kind of like a caste system, right, in modern day society. And the thing is, both being women of color, and then I always like to bring this up to the spiritual perspective because you're always going to see the mirroring of the spiritual issues and the lessons in your 3D physical world, and then vice versa, right? Where we were dealing with um just a little disrespect and with supervisors. And like I've said, I've never seen my life that way. So even nowadays, the more I've stepped into my authenticity, shining my light, not being afraid to vocalize that I'm into spirituality, and to really being open about talking about unity, consciousness, Christ consciousness, etc., that people get what I'm talking about, right? They know what I'm about. And so they just never really bring that type of vibe towards me. It's like I hold myself to a level of standard. I don't like to participate in certain level of conversations because I just find they're not benefiting and they're not really serving the purpose of what we're here to do in these type of settings. And both of us got to a point where we were like, you know what? We're one, too old, have enough experience, life experience, and to a point where I'm fed up with this. Like, I don't need to take this, and not from you. And this is so important because this is a constant theme, not just in terms of the workplace environment, but also your personal life and relationships, and like how you allow people to treat you based off of how, again, this can go from karmic timelines, relationships, energy exchanges, as well as like projections that you're receiving from people, but also what you're projecting out subconsciously, where you're seeing yourself based off some sort of label, and in this case it could be ethnic background, ancestral wounds based off your sex, etc. And letting that and what the collective wider picture has for a long time, unfortunately, just we've allowed to continue in terms of allowing ourselves to play small and giving our power away. And we were like, you know what? This ain't worth it. Like, my soul sister, walked out within a short time frame after having to go through her own personal experience. And me, I've never played that ethnic card or whatever. But I was like, you know what? And I might just be like releasing some things, which is great, but it's also good for you for to empower star seeds to not let people put you down just because there's some sort of story that healers and people of the love and light and spiritual seekers like need to take shit from people. That's not empowering at all. And that's not valuing yourself, and that is not putting your boundaries forward so that people can get a good check and look at themselves, right? We shouldn't be afraid that when moments come up when we trigger people, and we're not just doing it to do it, it's just honestly, energetically, you're probably going to bring up shadows and other people that for you just showing up in your light, being. And we need to be okay with that discomfort because for me personally, what was coming up is like I was getting these attacks and this type of attitude that I've never received from well, I've had it a couple of times, but this was different in a while where I haven't had this type of attitude. And in the past, I wouldn't say anything. I would be like, of course, I was angry. I was upset because like I could see it. And I'm like, why is this coming up? Why? I was going through the emotional roller coaster of feeling triggered, feeling the wounds, and yet at the same time, giving myself space and time to meditate on what was coming up because I didn't want to identify with the emotion, these thoughts. And I knew I could also sense a sense of disempowerment and not being in my power and strength. So after allowing myself to see the shadows and the wounds, I started seeing, oh, this is a lesson instead of stepping up into my leadership, stepping up to not allowing certain actions to continue because maybe I've allowed them in many different lifetimes to do so. And now I'm putting a stomp on it and a stop on it. And in this particular case, I actually put it out there. I was like, you know what? I feel like you're attacking me for some weird reason. It has nothing to do with my profession and what my career and what I do. It has nothing to do with my results. But you keep bringing this up. And I don't know if it's your personal projection and wounds, but this is not professional. This is not how I like to take care of business. This is not how I like to collaborate in a business perspective with others in a group setting. And I find it offensive. And honestly, one has this question whether or not as my friend mentioned, maybe some of us are conditioned to just let things go and not fight for it, not question it, not, dig a little deeper. And maybe you're attacking me based off of some color and, labeling and how I dress and how I look. But honestly, I'm here and this has never impacted my work. I have an educational background and I have a professional background. And for you to act like this is not okay with me. So if we want to play the cards here, the labeling, let's play your game. And regardless of how things turn out, I don't really care. I think it's just important that the lesson is to vocalize with this star seed energy because we've come from experiences in the stars where we come from a higher vibrational perspective and awareness and consciousness where we've been, it is love and light. We've And then this is why we've reincarnated it into this lifetime to experience the opposite, the shadow, the yang, the yin, the light and the dark duality, because there are lessons to see that one, in order to implement boundaries and self-worth and self-respect for ourselves individually, we have to see the opposite of what that actually looks like when it's not in place, when we don't honor our own lines, and when we allow other people to walk over us. And it takes a lot of courage to speak your truth, to speak your boundaries. And a good advice that I received from somebody who mentioned is like, why here you are fretting, feeling bad about how this person made you feel, and you're worried about like how you're going to be received when you share your truth and your experience perspective. But here they are, and they don't care. They're living their life carefree. And this goes to like karma and just lessons, but being okay with expressing what is needed to be said, regardless of the results. And big or small, from I always focus really on the personal and more um, closer proximity experience in your community, family, workspaces, right? And then you can also apply that to the major macro perspective out in other countries and situations that are coming up for many, because you'll be most effective when you clean up space in the home. And and I laugh because it's funny because I'm looking at my room and I need to clean it and organize it. But sometimes people get distracted based off of these labels or the overall picture and neglect the details right in front of them that really could make a bigger impact and level of understanding. And just from an energetic perspective, soul level perspective, where is usually all my downloads and teachings come from for the soul alignment on your path and journey, um, is through. We're aware of our emotions, we're aware of our thoughts, and this is perfect because this is this mental health awareness month right now in May, and your mental well-being is in the spiritual, the gifts and the psychic intuitiveness has a direct correlation to neurodivergent people, right? ADHD, because of the level of energy and the way of processing the brain functions and learning and understanding of information and expressing that information. And so the sharing of the stories to help bring rise to this really important topic for the collective of healers, of star seeds, intuitives, and empaths, to not allow things to continue in their life, especially karmically. You don't want it to go and repeat in the next cycle. This is so important of like knowing who you are at a higher vibrational level and how that looks like in this 3D world and matrix, bringing down a new world order from above. And as we go in and touch base on what is this new moon energy, the signs and astrological support, and then also special offer and treat for you that is perfect alignment to what I am bringing up right now. Sacred art of adornment, by the way, if you've been paying attention. When we are highly intuitive beings and we are here to express our unique truths and step out into our purpose and be the light in a space where there are many things going on where that want to keep us dimmed, that want to keep the collective playing small or in a state of lack and fear, we need protection. A lot of us pray for our family members, communities. Many of us are healers, and many of us, again, we're always surrounded by a lot of influx and changing energy that can affect your own vibrational field, your own energy around your chakras, so that you might fall into a state of being where you're feeling low depleted or in fear, or you feeling psychically attacked. And that's not often something that I like to touch on, but this recent season and past couple of months, year, Spirit has been showing me that it's important to talk about psychic attacks, psychic hygiene, and protection, because the work that we're here to do, there are different beings and energy that want us to play small and not live that out. So, sacred art of adornment is where you will learn how to activate and charge your own sacred objects to help and support you energetically, vibrationally as you are out living your life, more grounded, being more an impactful leader. And this also helps to contain your energy and support you. So, have you ever thought about those moments in your life where you know you resonate with a particular energy, you know who you are at a soul level, but yet you will go through karmic experiences, you will be triggered, or you trigger others energetically, and then boom, for some reason, you're just no longer in your power. You're no longer in that state of embodiment, especially when you know how gifted you are. And it's like, what is with that? And that oftentimes is just a dissonance of energy that's coming forward. One, it could be karmic lessons that you need to experience, but also sometimes it's like when you experience the lesson, okay, I'm aware of it, I'm aware of that thought, emotion, I'm aware that I'm not in balance, but we need to get out of it. This is where we begin to work with these tools to support us for protection, for healing, for cleansing, for manifestation, for abundance and more. And this is a self-paced course that is available to you. Um, and because it is on special waitlist, those who are waitlisted have special access to the special pricing that will be up for maybe about like 2 weeks or so at this point. And if you want to jump on that, the link is going to be down below in the in the detailed description box. And so, for this and for the collective energy messages, and this is the reason why I'm announcing it now, because for this Taurus new moon and Taurus season, energy following Venus is about beauty on this specific download. This is related also feel free to head over to the YouTube channel, Glamour Magic and Magic and Ritual. And these are keys and ancient teachings that either they're really hidden or they just we don't talk about it because of some sort of stigma that is carried around these type of conversations, especially when it comes to energy work and spiritual work, working with spirit and spiritual realms. Because the person that you were 5 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago is not the same person that you are right now breathing. Is that now? I pray that this message, this download, which felt really grounded, comes through for you, supports you during this new moon and the next couple of weeks, especially as we have this beautiful opportunity to work with the stars in alignment for full support where we are.